So, a polycrisis is a convergence of multiple geopolitical, economic, and technological issues or crises coming together at once, which threatens to overwhelm governments and companies around the world, but especially those in the West. And the reason we chose to write it now is because it's very clear that there are a lot of different crises coming together, whether it is over Taiwan or whether it's Russia and NATO, whether it's AI, whether it's restriction of passage through critical choke points, for example, in the Middle East. And all of these seem to be converging over the next couple of years. And one or two on their own can be dealt with relatively easily. But as they come together, that is going to make it incredibly difficult for governments and companies alike to be able to respond.
Hey, Shalom. I'd like to start out by giving all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the Great Millstone. Shalom to the elect of Israel. This is the Mayim in Atlanta, and you just saw a little clip there explaining what Polycrisis is. And really, it's just Esau's term for the plagues of the Lord coming onto this earth, coming into his world, into Esau's world, to take out Esau's world via these plagues. So you're going to have war, you're going to have famine, you're going to have pestilence and disease, you're going to have civil unrest, you're going to have economic collapse, and all these things are coming to take out Esau's world, as it says, through unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit. The kingdom is translated from one people to another. And this isn't going to come, it's not going to be a smooth transition. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be violent. And Esau, trying to keep his kingdom, his world continuing, that continuity of governance Esau's trying to keep. He has plans to kind of soften the blow of the downfall, and we're seeing it with the National Guard being used. We saw it right at the beginning of Trump's second term in with California, and then you're seeing troops deployed into Chicago, into Washington D.C., and now you're seeing this. It says National Guard in each state is ordered to create quick reaction forces trained in civil unrest. And so we're seeing, and it's being normalized to have troops on the streets in these different cities. And this is going to, for Esau, hopefully keep order as his power wanes, as they're taken out of power, as this country begins to feel the plagues. Really, the world begins to feel the plagues of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And so they're going to have troops out there, especially because there's been rumblings about liquidity within the banks and possibly bank runs coming out. If that happens, yeah, you want to have troops in place to stop that. You're seeing a lot of division between the people, politically especially, and eventually that division is going to grow so great that it's going to get physical, and so they want to have troops out here to stop that before it gets going, or to just have troops in general. You're hearing people with the SNAP and EBT benefits being taken away. You're hearing people talking about stealing from the different stores to eat, and they're going to want to have troops out there to quell that. And so to answer for the Polycrisis, Esau wants to have his troops out on the streets, and that's why we're seeing, or at least one of the reasons we're seeing these troops coming together for these quick reaction forces. So this is from military.com. Came out or published October 31st. It says, Washington military leaders have ordered the National Guard in every state to develop a quick reaction force of troops trained to deal with civil disturbances and riots that can be ready to deploy with just hours' notice. The latest indication of longer term Trump administration plans to more readily dispatch soldiers to U.S. streets. A set of memos circulated this month directs Guard units in all 50 states and U.S. territories, except for the District of Columbia, to train a contingent of soldiers in a specialized course that includes the proper use of batons, body shields, stun guns, and pepper spray. So this is going against the citizens. And especially with these ICE raids, we're seeing a lot of tension between citizens and the troops, and these ICE troops. It's signed by Major General Ronald Burkett, Operations Director for the National Guard. The memos reviewed by the Associated Press give various numbers for each state's force, often 500 each, that total more than 23,000 troops in all. The memos direct Washington, D.C. to maintain a specialized military police battalion with 50 National Guard soldiers on active duty orders. It presses forward with President Donald Trump's broader vision for a muscular role for the U.S. military in targeting illegal immigration and crime. He's already pushed traditional boundaries by sending the National Guard into American cities, often over the objection of Democratic local leaders. The memos, reported earlier by The Guardian, come after Trump signed an executive order in August that directed the Pentagon to create quick reaction forces that would be available for rapid nationwide deployment. The executive order is cited as one of the authorities for the memo, about which the Pentagon did not immediately respond to a request for comment. And so basically, there's going to be troops on the streets. And this is becoming more and more normalized to have troops on the streets. And even this ICE thing, it's permanent. It's being made permanent. I was talking about Operation Wetback last week in a lesson, and ChatGPT was saying that Operation Wetback, which is immigration, basically a deportation operation that they had back decades ago, and how it's come back, how it's being made permanent, this deportation thing. So it's going to be normal to just see ICE on the streets and taking people away. And they're trying to make it normal to just see National Guard troops on the streets and conducting whatever operations they have to conduct. They're trying to make this normal. They're trying to make basically martial law normal. And it's all because of Esau losing power, first and foremost, and their world ending, but these Polycrisis. So this is 2 Esdras 8 and verse 50. For many great miseries, Polycrisis, shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. And this is going to happen ultimately in Babylon the Great, aka America, but it's going to happen all around the world. The Lord's going to send the plagues upon the earth. You're going to have war, and just, not just world war, there will be civil wars going on. You're going to have famine, you're going to have pestilence and disease, you're going to have civil unrest, and there's different civil wars that are going to go on. You're going to have economic collapse. You're going to have the chariots of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai return. And these are all great miseries for this place. And it's coming soon. And it all goes into what we call the time of Jacob's trouble as well. Jeremiah 30 and verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. His Esau is the end of the world. Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. Jacob being the Israelites. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. And the Israelites that came out of them, the 12 tribes, make up the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. That's even who you're seeing targeted within these within these ice raids, and that's who they're even aiming these National Guard's troops after, because there is going to be a time of Jacob's trouble, and you might as well call it this time of Polycrisis, because this is coming for everyone. It's going to turn into Esau's trouble as well, which is they're trying to prevent with these troops coming, and even talking about these Polycrises, how they're going to prevent that. You can't prevent your downfall. It's just your time to fall. But this great time of trouble can be described as a time of Polycrisis. 2nd Esdras 15 and verse 14. Actually, let's start at 10, because it's going into plagues and crises as well. 2nd Esdras 15 and 10. Behold, my people, his people are the Israelites, the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, is led as a flock to the slaughter. Jacob's trouble is about to happen, and they're going to take out a lot of Israelites. It says, I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. This isn't talking about ancient Egypt, it's speaking of modern Egypt, America. America is described as being Egypt for the bondage, for the captivity that the Israelites served here. It says, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues, these polycrises, as before. So it's not ancient Egypt it's speaking of, it's talking about this modern Egypt, the spiritual Egypt, America. And these are polycrises, these plagues, as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. Because the Lord didn't destroy all of Egypt. People still live in Egypt, the land of Egypt. But this modern Egypt, the spiritual Egypt, America, is going to get nuked. Nobody's ever going to dwell here ever again. It's going to be a great example of how not to be. It said, Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. More polycrises. They that till the ground shall mourn, for their seed shall fail through the blasting and hail, and with the fearful constellation. So, not having food supply is going to bring a famine. There will be a famine coming. Woe to the world, so destruction to the world, and them that dwell therein. For the sword in their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hand. Civil unrest. So it's already going over Slovakia. It's already going over famine, blight. The idea of the seeds failing. And then it's going into civil unrest as well. Also speaking of the plagues that the Lord's going to bring. It says, for there shall be sedition among men, so rebellion, uprisings, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. So they're going against their authorities. There's just no King's Day. And there's even been rumblings of people within Trump's administration having to move onto military bases because they're afraid for their families. Eventually, the people are going to touch them. It says, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city, and shall not be able. Martial law. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. This is complete chaos within a society. These are what they're preparing for. This is what they're talking about with polycrises. And this is why the National Guard troops they have quick response forces, because this is all coming. It says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. These polycrises, lack of bread, famine. civil unrest, and then World War. But ultimately, they're going to bring that MOTB. These crises are really going to explode and get going, and then Yahweh Shai is going to return with that armada, that fleet of his angels within the chariots, and they're going to take this place out. America's going to be nuked, and the end of Esau's world will have happened. And then they're going to come back. They're going to be reincarnated back into the new world as slaves, as captives, as well as all the other heathen. And Jacob, the Israelites, will be joint heirs with Yahweh Shai in this new world. But first, he has to put down all rule, power, and authority. And these crises have to happen. Jacob's trouble has to happen. The MOTB has to be pushed out. And we should be excited because the kingdom of Yahweh Bashem El Shai, the kingdom of Israel, is about to be set up. So they can prepare for their polycrises, but there's nothing they can do. Lord will, that was edifying. I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rekach Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the great millstone. Shalom to the elect of Israel. Shalom.